Okay guys, we've got a special feature for you here. I am going to do a full commentary of the opening episode of Series 1 of The Bench. I'm going to reveal some secrets, my inspiration, and there'll be a little bit of cringe in there too.
I'm brown, yeah.
I don't see the correlation. I always like, where possible, to open anything I do with a little bit of a taste to what's coming up in the episode, just to pull people in. Now, this opening sequence, the panning down, I have my friend James to thank for this. When I told him what the idea for the series was, I told him I wanted an opening sequence that could orientate the viewer and let them know where I was, and I said, would you film it using your drone? And he said, I could, but I'd rather not, just get it off Google, mate. So that's a Google Studio feature which you guys can use, and I really like it. And I enjoy going for walks these days, especially at night. There's something quite charming about it. I never used to do it, but I'm doing it more frequently nowadays. And as I was walking, it's very dark, and I thought, I never make content in the dark. It's always light whenever I do anything, and I thought, well, there's probably a good reason for that. You can't start talking to people, and, well, you can, but I've just never done it. You'd think the stakes would be higher as well when you start talking to people in the... Episode 1 was filmed 5 minutes after having the idea for The Bench, and yeah, I just sat down and I thought, I'll talk to people and see what happens. What can you ask someone that's not too weird, but is a nice thing to ask another human, and just to see what they'd say? And I thought about it for a couple of minutes. I thought, what if I just asked people, what's been your highlight of the week? It'd be interesting to see what people would say if I just asked them what's been the highlight of the week. Even more fun, given that I'm talking about highlights in low light, so maybe we'll just call it that. Maybe we'll just call it low light highlights, and we'll just see. I cringe at this bit because with my love of content and branding and stuff, I'm always thinking about things from a very marketing point of view. So the minute I had the idea for this, I was thinking, okay, well, what would it be called? So I said there, maybe we'll call it lowlights and highlights. And that's literally what I was thinking I could call the series once I had the idea for it. And I'm like, my whole idea was that every single episode I was going to ask people the same question, the one I asked in episode 1, which I think, what has been your highlight of the week? So originally, The Bench, as far as I was thinking, was going to be a series where I asked people the same question every single night. I soon realised that would be shit, which is why I didn't do that. But the fact I said in there we could call it low light highlights, that is actually what I was going to call it, before I realised that A, The Bench was better, and B, that was shit. Can I ask, what's been your highlight of the week? I'm just gauging.
Having 3 days off.
As in bank holiday. Okay, bank holiday for that guy, buddy. Mate. I think the fact that those people answered very quickly and said bank holiday made me think, oh wow, this isn't weird. People are at least answering me. What's been your highlight of the week?
Maybe holiday tomorrow.
I'm just asking, say hi.
Hi.
Holiday I love this guy. Look at him. I love what he says here. See you, buddy. Have a nice evening. What a nice guy. So far, everybody's excited about holidays. And this is a common theme with everything I've done in the past. Whenever the interactions I have with people are positive from the get-go, it instantly puts me at ease and it makes me think, oh, this isn't going to be weird then. So I was really happy when he said, have a nice evening. Doesn't appear to be anybody coming. This music that I use here was one of probably only 3 moments in the entire series where I did use music. I used it at this section because I felt, with this being episode 1, it was a nice way to communicate tension, and I think it worked here, but nowhere else did it work.
It's been good, I'll give you that one. What about you, mate?
Just started your new job. Do you want to come and do you want to come and tell me about your new job? I'm not weird, don't worry. I like talking to randoms. Tell me about your new job.
It's a pretty shit job. Yeah, it's just a warehouse job.
It's just a warehouse job. Tell me about it. By the way, I'm CK.
Nice to meet you.
So at this point, when Oleg shook my hand, Tuss shook my hand, they were waving to the camera, they were interacting, they were laughing, they were smiling, they were happy, or at least they weren't overly creeped out. At this point I was thinking, oh, okay, this is nice, people are entertaining my weird personality. And the minute they sat on the bench, I can't stress enough the sense of relief that there could be something in this. So, Tuss and Oleg, thank you sincerely for making me realise that actually there's something here. I don't know. I've only ever known, well, now 2.
Yeah,
So, how long have you been in Sheffield?
7 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tuss?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Have you just recently met, or have you been friends beyond that?
Yeah, 7-8 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. We've been friends for about a year now, nearly.
Did you come here to do uni?
I've been bopping around all around the country and then kind of settled down here for A-levels. I'm only 20.
You're only 20?
Yeah.
Okay, and you, Tuss?
I came to work too.
So these cutaways that I use were there because I knew very early that this series, based on one camera and one conversation over the course of 8, 9, 10, 11, sometimes more minutes, was quite an ask of viewers. So I felt those cutaways to the street and to passing cars, blurred lights, was just a way of punctuating it. This, I want to talk about this bit. This became a series feature. The overhead drone footage of Sheffield at night with lights. I would argue that no city doesn't look beautiful at night, especially this kind of point of view, I guess. And I just knew if I could give the viewers an opportunity to just catch their breath, reflect, adjust, take a piss, whatever, I knew it was necessary for the reasons I outlined earlier on. Like 10 minutes of just one camera, one conversation was quite an ask. So I thought it was a nice way to reset, and I felt it worked, and that's why it became a series feature throughout. Let me know what you thought.
Cross under a ladder, like obvious one. Don't go underneath this giant machine that sounds like an earthquake. Obvious one. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like this. And it's just
Okay.
I'm thinking like, how little common sense do people have to not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays everybody's got to cover their ass. But and what about you? So Oleg's rocking the warehouse. What about you, Tuss?
I work in IT.
Okay.
All IT stuff.
Well, we know who's got the brains in this arrangement.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's end with 2 final questions. Something which you might be interested in is that this was the only episode that I filmed using my hand, holding the camera stroke phone in my hand. All the other ones, this is why it's a little bit shaky, because I'm cold, believe it or not. But episode 2 to episode 7 was filmed on the end of a tripod. The reason for that is because episode 1, as I mentioned from the get-go, episode 1 was filmed without me knowing I was going to film a series. I just had the idea while I was out, and I don't make a habit of going out with my tripod. So that's why the episode 1 was the only one where I was holding the camera with my hand. At the end of this episode, I realised, I'm not going to do that again. Is that your thing?
Yeah, vertical farming.
What farming?
Vertical farming.
Vertical farming. What does that mean? I mean, I still don't get vertical farming. Okay, I'm going to have to defer to the brainy guy. He doesn't know either.
No, you're best off.
All right, come to me about computers. Vertical farming, that's Oleg's department. Okay.
Basically, it's like it's been around for years, like maybe 20, 30 years, and it's just taking all the newest technologies in agriculture, and you're using 95% less water, no soil, you're growing in basically the most dense, efficient way you can, so you're producing the most amount of food for the least amount of energy, water, resources, everything. So, and because you're growing indoors, controlled environment, no pesticides, no herbicides, it's all organic, it's literally everything you would ever want from food. And
I remember at this moment thinking, oh, okay, this is timely. We're all concerned about what we're eating nowadays. Organic food is very current. So I was thinking, oh, cool.
Be more mindful of what you're putting in yourself recently. Have you always grown up being conscious?
I've always grown up being conscious.
Why? Is that like a family thing? For
Yeah, my nan really.
Your nan. Okay, fine. So your hopes and ambitions is to curb climate change and eat better shit.
Yeah, basically.
And everybody else.
Everybody's eating better shit. Yeah.
That's noble. Bravo. Right, he set the standard high, Tuss.
Yeah,
don't just say make sure computers work.
No, mine's really selfish. I just want to travel the world and make a lot of money.
Oh mate! Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone's switched off. They're like, back to all Mexico. Tuss isn't for us. Okay.
That "tuss isn't for us" wasn't an intended rhyme. It was only afterwards I thought, CK, you dick.
I'm brown, yeah.
I don't see the correlation.
Oh, you don't? Oh, that's good for you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
All brown people like the cash.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. You heard that from Tuss, not me. Don't.
If you're a, in inverted commas, brown person, let me know in the comments below if you enjoy the cash.
Top of your place to travel that you haven't yet been.
Indonesia, Philippines. Indonesia and the Philippines both from our top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So basically anywhere in East Asia, really.
Okay.
Yeah. Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my hope and dream is to have one of the formats I've written picked up by Netflix.
Oh, nice.
So I'm kind of leaning towards you in terms of superficial, but not really. I'll tell you why though. I just kind of love content, and I love content that's underpinned by me just interacting with people. So here's my closing question. Genuinely, when I just randomly asked you that question out of the blue, did you think weird, or did you think, all right?
I didn't always plan to ask people whether or not they thought me stopping them was weird, but it just felt like a
I thought it was just pretty cool.
justified question.
Like that, because normally people are just
I loved his answer. I thought it was cool.
That's the good thing about the north and the south. I mean, versus the south. In the north, if you ask people, they're like, yeah, let's do it. In the south, it's more of mind my fucking business. I'm gonna look down. I'm gonna walk straight on. It's more of a busy city.
Was there not even a fraction of hesitance?
No, there was. Yeah,
there was a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
What took that away?
You weren't drunk.
I didn't see any alcohol bottles near you. You didn't look jittery or anything. Like.
No, didn't look jittery.
Yeah.
I'll bet. Okay, so what were your first thoughts? Same?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, at the same time, kind of the opposite. It's because of maybe how...
So by this point of the opening episode, having spoke to two complete strangers for what is now approaching 9 minutes, I was thinking, wow, this has been such a joy. I've shared a conversation with two nice guys, we've had a laugh, we've discovered things about each other, and it wasn't at all awkward. It was light, it was easy. So by this point I was thinking, wow, this could be a thing. Me asking for closing thoughts is a common signature throughout my videos, and it just seemed to make sense here. And
connect with people, create things, contribute to the world, learn and earn.
Connect, create, contribute, learn and earn. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a more appropriate close. Now this... Will Rogers once said that too many people spend the money they earn to buy things they don't want, to impress people they don't like. Tuss, don't be one of those people. Good luck, boys. My closing thoughts, let's talk about my closing thoughts, which happened throughout the entire series. That was what I would define as a production necessity, because I was always aware that I wanted to get away from the conversation in a way. At the end of it, I wanted to get away from each conversation and reflect on that conversation, but I didn't want that reflection to be part of my evening encounter. I wanted it to be separate, and just to kind of get the viewer into a new space and punctuate the episode again, give them something new to look at, something new to consider. And I thought a closing voiceover with, again, some nice aerial shots of Sheffield at night with lights. I thought that would be a nice opportunity to drop in a voiceover where I reflect on my learnings. Now, the quotes were another unintended theme of the series, that the minute I did it, I liked it, and that's why it continued for maybe 4 of the 7 episodes. And I was just thinking, what do people like nowadays, and what is very timely in modern day culture? And quotes are everywhere on Instagram. Everybody loves a quote. I enjoy quote in context, and I thought, wow, let's go for quotes. So the way I usually sourced my quotes was I would simply Google whatever the subject was, and then so famous quote on money in this instance, or famous quote on fame for episode 5, or famous quote on whatever each episode seemed to be. And so let me briefly talk to you about the music that I used to open, close, and the mid section as well. That is music that I sourced via the YouTube library, and I was so lucky when I found it, because I knew instantly that it was a perfect partner for the tone of the series. And again, I'm at liberty to listen to your views if you disagree, but I just really like it, and I feel that it does communicate the tone. And the closing voiceover was inspired by a series I used to watch as a kid in the late 80s or early, I think it was late 80s, and people that are the same age as me might smile, but it was a series called Midnight Caller, featuring Jack Gillen, I think, who was a late night talk host, and often the episodes would feature his voiceover, and it wasn't necessarily accompanied by overhead aerial shots of America, but there was just something, I remember as a kid, there was just something about a voiceover when you can't even see who was responsible for the voice. There was just something about that I always liked, and it's just always been in the back of my head, and this was the perfect opportunity for me to use a voiceover in a evening setting.
The shadows cast become more distinct, sharper, more treacherous. In the contrasting darkness, there is more fear. In the light, there is unspeakable agony. You yearn for sleep, but it never comes. You cry out for relief, but it always seems to elude you. The ghosts of the future that you never had haunt you. The memories of the past that you yearned for mock you. Death seems to be the only way to exact revenge against the life you never asked for. But ultimately what you discover is that living in any way, however you have to, is the only answer to every question. This is Jack Killian, the Nighthawk, on KJCM Radio 98.3 on your FM dial. And good night, America, wherever you are.
That was the inspiration behind the opening episode and all the subsequent episodes. If there is an episode of the Bench Series 1 you would like me to do a commentary for, drop a comment underneath this video and I will happily narrate your episode of choice. Thanks for watching.